Welcome back to Beauty Uncovered, sponsored by Olaplex. And today I get someone from my wish list of guests. I'm so excited. Now, I need to first talk a little bit why I've been really excited about having Emily D. Baker. You may have seen her on YouTube. You may have seen her on all kinds of social about pop culture, law, all of it. But what I really love is speaking to an expert that breaks things down to something that is digestible. That is really sometimes a very difficult chore or difficult gift to really be able to do. And also you do it with a sense of humor and you demand kindness and civility in your group. So thank you so much for coming on today. I'm really excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have a conversation. I really am just excited to be here and to chat all things about law and pop culture and content creation and really the space for positive communities on the internet, because that shouldn't be a radical thing, but it kind of is.
It's very funny because I actually, true story, woke up at 2:00 in the morning the other morning. And I had this thought because, we do the podcast. A lot of us is talking about on Beauty Uncovered is really just uncovering all those great things that make our lives beautiful. Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. It could be the skincare, it could be the hair, it could be all of that. But it also is that beacon of that light that all of us have in us. And I woke up thinking to myself, God, the world is crazy right now. Yeah. Things are nuts. And you've got to find those people that are bringing really good, positive, kind content out there. Otherwise, you're going to get sucked in.
Absolutely. And it's so easy to suck into the negative and the disasters of it all, or the catastrophe of it all. And so much of our, particularly headlines and stuff, just is trying to get you in, and you're like, oh, I need to click on this because that's bad. I need to know. And there's this like fear response. And I want a curiosity response. Like, ooh, yes. I want to know about that. Can we talk more about that? Let's talk about that. And I think that's such a much more fun way to engage. And that's what I've built because I'm independent. I'm not beholden to anyone really saying, oh, we've got to do it this way. I'm going to do it my own way. But I didn't really come around to that until early in my 40s. And that's really a blessing with age, that you're like, oh, I've tried it everyone else's way and I'm done with that now. Thank you.
I think that the interesting thing is that it is such an interesting niche market, so to speak, because I know that you started on YouTube talking about like technology and everything.
I did.
I know, which is fascinating to me. Like a tech geek. I know you love the Harry Potter, you love the Star Wars, like
my nerdiness knows no bounds.
Like for as much as I'm a hairdresser, I'm a beauty expert, like you are my people. I get that. Yes. Like that is the stuff I love. But to be able to kind of cross that bridge into a different genre, even though you were an expert at law, that must have been quite a transition.
It's been really fun because it feels like my little secret of things that I loved, reality television, pop culture, and general nerdiness, has been allowed to surface. So I feel like I'm not hiding a part of myself because I am not a tremendously serious person. I can be serious, but it's just too heavy. I don't take myself super seriously, but in law, it can be so serious. And lawyers, a lot of them take themselves very, very seriously. It's very much breaking the culture of law to be less serious, especially when we talk about less serious topics. And that can be really liberating. So I feel like I've unleashed the pop culture side of myself, where you would like kind of whisper like, did you see what happened on Jersey Shore? Like, I totally love Jersey Shore. Like Snooki showed up with her stuff in trash bags. Like, what's happening on this show? And I've loved that since early days reality TV. And there's judgment around reality TV or trash TV, but we all need something that's light and fun. And we deserve to have fun and joy in our lives, even when things are heavy and serious. Otherwise, you just burn out or become deeply unpleasant to be around. One of the two.
I have to ask, because now for anyone that doesn't know Emily, she was the assistant DA in the Los Angeles County?
I was a deputy district attorney.
Okay.
So assistant would put me up on managerial level, and I definitely was not there. It's so confusing because in the U.S. Attorney's Office, they're assistant ADAs or AUSAs, and other jurisdictions are ADAs, but I was a deputy DA. So I was a line trial deputy for over 10 years in Los Angeles County, very large county.
So I'm trying to bridge the gap of where it went from there to here. Like, because I mean, I know that you've been on YouTube and you've been on social media for a very long time, but I mean, was it while you were also working in the district attorney's
office?
Bit.
So I was a district attorney until early 2017. When I left, I was really having not just severe burnout and health related issues because of that, but I also underwent a year in 2016 of multiple back surgeries because I had, a first back surgery and then another back surgery and then needed a spinal fusion. And so going through that process was tremendously demoralizing. And I was like, I need to do something different. But when I was starting to go through health issues, I was really looking to connect. Being out of work it's lonely, truly. When you work in a job like law, or you work in a professional career, or even at the district attorney's office or anywhere else, your work crew becomes a lot of your social circle. That's who you talk to every day. It's who you see every day, for better or for worse. And when I was out of work with health issues, everyone else is at work all day. And I'm like, I don't really have a crew. So YouTube, I have always thought, was a great place for community. And, your mileage may vary based on the content creators you engage with, but I always thought it was great. And I loved tech creators. So in 2015, I started kind of messing around with that because I was still employed. I didn't want to talk about law. I couldn't really talk about law based on my work. So I was exploring the community of being a creator, connecting with other creators, going on live streams with other creators to talk about tech in a way that was accessible. After I left the DA's office, I started doing entrepreneurial work and doing online consulting for online business owners in the legal space with contracts and consulting about trademarks and doing that kind of client work, while I started my podcast to educate business owners in a fun way about the things they needed to be aware of when you're talking about, your online entrepreneur, your very starting out entrepreneur, small business owners. And I loved that because I loved connecting with clients, but I'm also ADHD and dyslexic, and doing contract work is not my best life. So as 2020 came, most of the online business owners that were my clients were like, I don't know what this is. I don't know if my business survives. I don't know how my family does this. My kids are home from school all of a sudden overnight. And now I'm a teacher apparently. And I am trying to wrangle people on Zoom calls. And I just don't know. And I had been in the middle of like a bunch of contracts for live events and things like that. And I'm like, let's just put a pause on all of it. And I felt so blessed to be in a place where I wasn't trying to be like, well, you signed this contract, we have to go through with it, where I could be like, I'm refunding everyone. My husband's like, we're doing what now? I'm like, I'm refunding all of my clients. We're just stopping work. If they need it after this, whatever this is, we'll resume, we'll figure it out. And he's like, okay, that's what we're doing. I'm like, that's what we're doing. That's in integrity for me. That everyone doesn't know what this means. And that's March, April 2020. And I started leaning into my content creation. And that's what led to here is really the opportunity to take a step back from client work because everyone needed a pause. And that pause gave me the opportunity to reassess how I wanted to spend my days. And I love content creation. I love conversations. I love breaking down the law for everyone to understand. I hate that law gets so gatekept by old words and big words and lengthy sentences with no punctuation in them that who can understand anyway. And thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars of education when it governs literally everything we do. Your iPhone has terms of use on it when you start it up that you have to understand that are legal. Everything you buy has a legal contract. Your gas tax is legislation. Everything in our life, particularly in the US, is governed by laws that are gatekept by education and money. And I don't love that. So we're going to just keep breaking it down.
So what I always loved, and like I said, it's very funny. It's a true story. Like I was watching you on YouTube before I actually was a sub. Like I was watching,
that happens.
Looking for you. And it's so funny because you would think that somebody that is often on social media that I would just know that click that subscribe, which I recommend everybody do. Um, I had to search for you, but I have been watching you for a couple of years, just probably around the COVID time. So that makes sense. But it became a lot more intensified, obviously, with Brittany Spears, all that went on with that. And definitely you were, without a doubt, and still are, the go-to place to go when it came to the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. I don't know how you had the stamina to be on because, okay, like, all right, so my bosses are going to hear this. I would put on my television with you on it as soon as you came on, and I would leave it running all day.
Just background. We're in the background having a chat. It's
right. Fun. I would be doing my work, listening, kicking along.
It's like having the radio on. I see nothing wrong with that at all. It can be very passive.
And when I had meetings, I would go into another room. But I mean, it was compelling. But what I love about it is that you are able to really look at everything that is going on and break it down in such a digestible way. Like you understand, because you can hear, all these different not verdicts, but judgments.
Objection. Hearsay.
And you're like, how could they do that? And then you're like, actually, that's valid.
It's funny because when you ask about the stamina, I was a trial attorney for over 10 years. That's what I did. So yes, they were long days, but they were so much easier than doing the trial myself. When you're doing the trial yourself, you are up sometimes in the middle of the night because you had a thought and you need to write it down. And then if you are a female attorney, you have to do hair and makeup for a jury that's staring at you all day under very unflattering lighting. I don't know how the attorneys in this case looked flawless every day, but Camille Vasquez's hair was on point every single day in the humidity in Virginia, getting from her hotel to a courthouse. She lives in California. She's doing a trial in Virginia for over 6 weeks. I don't know how she did it, but you're up super early to prepare for the day and get ready. Then you're in court all day. Then you're preparing for the next day. Mm-hmm. They weren't sleeping more than a few hours a night. And that drain is something that I'm familiar with. So getting up and being able to sit down and stream it was nowhere near as taxing as actually having to do the trial myself. So I found it very enjoyable. I was going to be watching it anyway. And then I got to watch it with hundreds of thousands of friends that were all chatting along.
Literally, like hundreds of thousands of people were tuning in live with you during this time.
Yes.
And what I thought was hysterical, it really was like, go grab your popcorn, let's do this. It was so much fun, but like you learned something and you didn't feel like you were coming away with, and that's what I do appreciate. You don't come away with too many biases, so to speak, which I often find with a lot of content creators. We all kind of have our own personal biases.
We do. And I have no problem with people having their own biases, their own take, as long as they share with me what perspective they're coming from. Right. And I always try to share what lens I'm looking through when I can see that and saying, look, I'm a former prosecutor. I dealt with victims of violent crime. So I know I'm coming into the Depp Heard case already a bit more sympathetic to Amber Heard, just based on what I've seen in the allegations so far. And as we went through the trial, that shifted. And I hope that I explained well why my thought process was shifting based on what I'm watching. So I don't have a problem if people tell you the perspective they're coming from. I do struggle when it's like, no, you clearly have a position on this. You're just saying that you don't. That bothers me. So I try to make it clear when I have a position or when I don't, or when I'm struggling between the two, because I think that's the best we can do is be honest with where we're coming from. And in this case, I really just wanted to watch lawyers that are getting paid millions of dollars for this case go have an amazing trial in court. It's kind of like the Super Bowl. You get the two best teams of the year and everybody's getting paid a lot of money and you get to watch what happens. I really wanted to see the high paid lawyers do a trial in criminal cases that are so often streamed. You get the prosecutor that's assigned to the case and you get the defense attorney that's either paid for or assigned to the case. It's different than high powered civil litigators. Often better because they're in court all the time. But that's a personal bias because I'm a former criminal attorney. but they go to trial more. So it's very different in a criminal case than a civil case. So this was so wild. Things happened in this case I never would have expected, and then kept happening every single day.
I am curious of your opinion on why this case. Why is this? Because I mean, honestly, there's been a lot of different cases over the years of celebrities, whatever it may be, and it captures a little bit of our attention, but not to the extent that I saw with this. Like it overtook. I'm curious as to your thoughts as to why. I have my own personal opinions.
Oh, I want to hear them too. I really didn't. I expected there to be some interest in some parts of the trial. I did not expect the day-to-day intensity, especially as we got into the longer days of like video depositions. Video depos are boring. Yeah. They're hard to watch, but people were like, no, I want to see what this evidence shows. I want to see what's said. I don't want to miss anything. This almost feels like an act 3 of what went on between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp for me. First, you have the allegations made back in 2016. You have the divorce, her face on the cover of People, the temporary restraining order, and then you have the UK trial. So now it's like, we've got allegations, we've got one trial, and now we've got the final act, the final kind of part of this saga between them. And what happens next? The UK went against Johnny Depp. What happens in the US court? And I think because there was so much information that came out from the UK court, a lot of which I didn't go looking for because I just wanted to see what happened in this trial and be able to separate my brain from what the jury knows and doesn't know. The less I know, the better for that. I think the internet was able to play along more than any other case because there was so much already known. There was leaked audio, there was leaked video, there's conversations between the two of them, text messages that are out. The UK case put so much into the public knowledge that people could watch along and either know what was coming or not know what was coming. And I think that made it very compelling for everyone to watch. And then there's these characters within this trial, starting with Isaac Baruch, who was just so endearing and intriguing. Yes. And then you get these witnesses who you're like, ooh, listen to their resume. I'm fascinated. Like Dr. Shannon Curry, like, oh my God, tell me about you more. Like, can we stop? Like, read her resume more. Tell me more. You get like, the expert for Heard, Mr. Schnell. And you're like, wait, Doogie Howser, you finished, like you got a PhD at 14 or something. What is happening? And then the former attorney for Depp, Adam Waldman, who has like the most illustrious skin ever. And you're like, I'm distracted. I can't focus on the trial. What is your skincare routine? There were so many of those moments. And then you get like Morgan Tremaine from TMZ, who looks like Spicy Draco. Like, what's happening? Like,
but yeah, popped up out of nowhere. And then the one that was from the
Hicksville, Morgan Knight. Yes.
That was crazy. And it was delightful. Also, I mean, let's be real here. In a weird way, there was a lot of social media that did play a part of this.
Yes.
And that in itself was weird. It was. To see that, like, you see different people on Twitter talking about stuff and you see these things come out and you're like, oh, it was like getting the tea before even anyone else.
And I think that's why it was so compelling, because I don't want to downplay the seriousness of the allegations here, though they were found to be untrue by the jury. But there was this interactive almost component, it seems like, with the trial. You're watching it and then you're talking about it in real time across social media. So there is this almost connectedness when everyone's talking about one thing. And we used to have that around like big television programs and big season finales of things like Game of Thrones. Yeah. And even back earlier, before TV got so dispersed that people were like, oh, I'll stream it 3 seasons later or what have you. Things have gotten so decentralized that people aren't all watching the same thing at the same time the way we used to, except for this trial. This trial, everyone was watching at the same time worldwide.
I also feel like that it started a conversation that I had noticed was about, for as much as I know that people were getting very upset, Me Too, all this, and that it was negating it, what I was seeing was a lot of women feeling validated by seeing this, because we're in this situation where you live your life in this bubble and it's almost impossible to prove what goes on, and you just move on with life. But then you find out that you're being maligned, and to find out that this is what happened to someone, you just want justice for them. And in a weird way, it's for yourself.
I saw so many comments, and when you have 75, 100,000, 200,000 people on a stream, you see not all the comments, but quite a lot of them. And I saw them across social media, on my own platforms and others, in my email, in my DMs, of people saying, I'm a victim. I relate to Johnny Depp. I see so much of what I've been through being described by him. It's almost cathartic to see someone I connect with, because this trial, for all of its ups and downs, really stripped bare what happened in this relationship in a very raw way. And not only did we see kind of the backside of celebrity from Johnny Depp, not really even leaving his own homes because of his celebrity. Dr. Curry called him homebound by his own fame. It was a moment that like almost hit me in the gut. I'm like, wow, he really is so deeply isolated because of fame. And talking about that, and then talking about domestic relationships and domestic abuse and verbal abuse and emotional abuse. A lot of people are like, wow, this reminds me of a familial relationship I've had. Wow, someone talked to me like that, and that's not okay. It really, I think, opened up a lot of conversations. That's not always what the headlines want to talk about with this case, but that's what I saw on social media, that there was a connectedness of survivors around this case.
And it makes me wonder if there is a connection between that and the fascination with the Britney Spears case as well, simply because, again, you're looking at someone that was virtually homebound.
Yes.
Like, she was isolated and her voice couldn't be heard. I mean, that is the true sense of how so many victims of domestic violence or domestic abuse feel.
And I wonder if that's why at least so many in my audience were offended when Amber Heard was talking about her voice being taken, because we had watched so closely, Britney Spears be basically imprisoned in her own home by her conservatorship and actually have her voice taken. And so those words have a much more tangible meaning, especially after we heard Brittany go into court and tell her truth to the court in that audio that leaked everywhere of her saying, this is what my experience was. We finally got to hear her voice after 12 years of a conservatorship. So when somebody else comes out and says, my voice has been taken, that's something I think particularly the internet in the pop culture realm takes very seriously because of the things we've so recently seen happen. And the Britney Spears case, just it years and years of silence, with a few in the Free Britney movement saying this is really bad, and everyone else saying those people are crazy. What are they doing? And then it starts coming out that no, they're exactly right. Everyone should be paying attention to this. And they never gave up on finding justice for her.
It always seemed a little strange to me that here was a woman that was doing the kind of work that she was doing. Me having a lot more firsthand experience of someone that has a mental illness, that is incapable of taking care of themselves. And that is like night and day. And that person has autonomy. Like,
right. So, and so many,
that's like stunning.
Yes. And so many of us have dealt with family members, loved ones, family members of friends who have dealt with Alzheimer's, dementia, and other mentally altering and incapacitating conditions. And so to hear that Britney Spears is mentally incapacitated in a conservatorship and on a world tour makes everyone go, what?
And it's like, kind of like, sure, not everybody's going to like every choice that she makes. Lord have mercy. No one's going to like every choice I make. Sometimes I do stupid things.
We're humans. We all do.
Right. But I do have to say, like, to have a microscope under your life, especially when you're in your 20s.
Yes.
The pain. Oh my gosh. It is heartbreaking now when you look back at the storyline. The hindsight, it's 2020, but the judgment back then is insane.
And, non-celebrities are often allowed to make their mistakes and move on with life without everyone knowing about it. And when we look, when you juxtapose it to the Johnny Depp trial, and he talks about his addiction and the things he's done and the mistakes he's made and the hotel rooms he's trashed, nobody put him in a conservatorship. Nope. So there's a very different treatment of women too that became part of the conversation with Brittany when these women have feelings, God help us all. And it's like, no, Brittany had 2 kids back to back, a messy public divorce. And when people came to pick up her kids to turn them over to her ex for custody, she absolutely just broke with what she could handle, and who could blame her? But that's not how it was treated then. And I hope it's changed the way celebrity is treated going forward. And I wonder,
I don't think so, unfortunately.
It makes me sad, right? But social media might take some of that out.
When Princess Diana died, and it was a whole, if you remember, a lot of people going after the paparazzi, the way they handled things. There needs to be a pullback, and there was a big outcry for that. But yet I still see it happening. So
it does.
I don't know how much it really does. Like, eventually our memory just kind of dims and we go right back to the bad behavior.
I just hope with social media that celebrities can kind of undercut the paparazzi, because they can do it themselves. Yeah. But social media is a double-edged sword, because people are so quick to judge everything a celebrity says. But it'd be nice to be like, oh, I'm out to dinner here. Here's a picture, put it up on the Instagram and leave it be. And then you don't need people following you around. You've already shared it. It kind of takes the gotcha moment out, but I don't think that will ever be gone, because again, we're curious about celebrity. But I do think it's shifting with online celebrity. People are curious not just about what, Jennifer Aniston or Kim Kardashian's up to, but they're also curious about what, a niche TikToker is up to. And and it's shifting. And I hope that shift continues to place people in at least a more safe environment, especially when it comes to the paparazzi. And the laws in some states like California have changed around paparazzi. So
as you have grown in popularity, do you worry about that for yourself and your family?
It's funny, because at the DA's office, there were times I had police protection on my house based on the cases I worked on. And I didn't think that would be a thing with the internet. And it very much has been a concern. We've had things that have happened where we've had law enforcement involved just for the safety of my family. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it, but it's not something I'm unfamiliar with based on my prior work. It's something that I talk to creators about a lot in our kind of one-to-one conversations, but it's conversations I think we should have more broadly, not with creators. Eventually my kids are going to be on social media, and just having a conversation about, look, there are pictures you just can't share with your friends on social media because you can't undo that. And in some cases, it can be illegal. There are decisions that you have to make that your brain is not ready to make yet. And you are going to have to make them if you want to engage in this platform. Safety on the internet is always a concern. What I love about the law nerd community is every time I've met somebody in public, it's always like, oh my God, we were just talking about this case and I followed this case with your content. And we have literally this instant like chat of, I've been following this. Have you been following this? Did you see this? Oh my God, this was going on Twitter today. And my community is so incredibly positive that I'm never worried about that. There are some
we have to talk about that community for a second.
Yes.
We have to talk about that community because they are as much of the show as you are. Not to take away from your
No, I want it to be that way. I want it to be that way. I want that connectedness. I love that. I love that.
I have to admit, I probably have only commented on maybe a couple of your videos.
That's okay.
I'm slightly intimidated because they are so smart. They are so smart. And I'm like, I'm going to say something stupid. I'll do it.
No, you're not.
Maybe I might have had a glass of wine that night and I'm feeling brave, and I might.
Most of the chat has. Don't even worry about it.
But what I think is absolutely delicious is that, one, you have some of the smartest people in your comments, which I love.
They are very cheeky and sassy and clever. Yes.
Funny as hell.
Yes.
But also your moderators, God bless them.
Aren't they lovely?
Are incredible. How many moderators do you have?
Oh gosh, I would have to count more than 10. And I would honestly have to count. I know everybody's name. We have we have a whole process for moderators, and we get together and have Zoom meetings. We have a very formalized process, because being a moderator is really kind of the guardians of the community, and they are my guardian law nerds, and they are absolutely incredible. And I feel so grateful that people from the community volunteer and are like, I want to be a part of this. I want to help, and I want to protect this community. And that's really what it is. It's a protective, like, I want to protect our space. And my goal is community first. So if somebody is acting a mess in our chat and trolling and being hurtful and trying to cause harm, we just block them and get rid of them. I don't need an extra subscriber for anything. I need my community to be my community. And that is everything.
Previous to doing all of this stuff on social media and everything, I was hired by Olaplex to work on some of their social media channels. And one of the things that we have was some Facebook group that is all hairstylists. And like, hard line, one of the things that we always were, it is conducting yourself with kindness in the long run. You're not allowed to go on somebody's work and start like trashing it, or even giving your opinion on how they should have done it if they didn't ask you. Like,
wait,
you were not
only give your opinion when asked. What are these things that you're saying?
You were an ass. So don't tell them how they should have done it. They're proud of their work. Leave them alone. So we, some people would sit there and say it's censorship, but no, that is
follow the ground
rules. Without a doubt, creating a community that is a safe place. And that is, like I said, right from the very beginning, one of the things I love about your channel is it is a safe place.
Yes.
That, maybe I might not sound like the smartest person in the world, but I'm sure the moderator is going to make sure no one's going to sit there and completely trash me for it.
Oh, absolutely. And there are plenty of places on the internet to just say whatever you want, and varying levels of them. And that's fine. If people want that, they can go find that. That's not what I want my community to be. I think it's more rare to have a carved out space where the expectation is truly compassion and to stop and think. One of the things the moderators remind people is taste your words before you spit them out. Like, and remember that when you're typing, it can be read two ways sometimes. And so, tone indicators and emojis sometimes help if you're being sarcastic, because if people can't read that it's sarcasm, it just sounds mean, and making sure that people know what you mean. And that's really helpful to remind people. What's in your brain doesn't always translate in text unless you just make it clear kind of what you're saying, or that you're joking, or that you're being sarcastic or facetious. And just being clear is also kind, being clear in your speech to others. So we make it very clear that that's what's expected. And
I used to train some of our moderators, and I would explain to them that every single bad comment that you saw, you need to understand for a second, take a pause and look at it and go, this is a person that's hurting. They're hurting right now. I mean, it might seem ridiculous. They could be just the nastiest person, sound like the nastiest person in the world, but for whatever reason, they can't outlash that in their own personal life. So they're doing it anonymously, whatever.
Right.
And that to take a breath, take a breath. You can write down on a piece of paper what you really want to say, but for a moment, have empathy. Who knows, their cat might've died, they're whatever. So we used to try to have an offline communication with them first and everything. That's sometimes hard.
It can be.
It can be hard in the sense of it just becomes too much work as you get big. But it's really looking at the fact that some people are just writing nasty things and there's no reason to go back and forth. It's a waste of time. It's a lesson in futility.
Yeah, I don't feed into it because I want to spend time with my community. And if I'm responding to negative comments and just plain negativity, like, oh my God, you're 40 with purple hair. Like, who do you think you are? I'm like, I'm Emily. Hi. You don't have to be in my corner of the internet.
I had galaxy hair at 45. That was fun.
So fun. Your hair is delicious. I love it. But if I'm answering those comments, I'm not answering the comments of a law nerd who asked me a question. And that's just not the best use of my time. If somebody asks me a question, even if it's a hard question, I will read them as genuine. And even if that's naive of me, I'm like, what if this question is genuine and not trying to be pointed or snarky? I'm going to read it as genuine. I'm going to answer it as genuine. And if that's not what was intended by them, then that's on them, not me. but I just don't engage with plain hostility because it's not what I have time for. And that has gone down significantly. Most people who want to kind of poke, especially at creators, do it because they want a response. I don't respond. You know that I'm not going to respond. I've made it clear that I'm not going to respond. And I actually literally don't respond. Occasionally I'll screenshot it and send it to my friends and tell them what I think about it, but I'm not giving that person the response or the attention that they are so desperately craving.
It also gives them power when you do. So
yeah, don't feed the trolls.
No,
they multiply like gremlins.
So I actually, because I know you were a very busy woman and you just came back from New York, so you must be exhausted. So
good. I have
watching today.
No, it was fun. I have the fill lights on to try to mute how tired. It's been a very busy few months, and blessedly so. I love what I cover, but with Jen Shaw pleading guilty, my time in the next few weeks is freed up a little bit because I was going to be in New York for that. So it's kind of, I'm like, ooh, we have a little bit of time to catch up now, which is nice.
There's so many, admittedly, I probably could ask you another 100 questions because I keep on thinking to myself, like, even just the trajectory from committing to law and pop culture to where you're at today. I mean, the growth that you've had right now, you're almost at a 700,000 at the time of this recording. Who knows, tomorrow you'll be at 1 million. We don't know. But I mean, that kind of adjustment, like you said, even just, I know what it takes to get moderators and being able to get that organized. Having all of the systems in place to really have a machine that you've got going on. How do you adjust into that life? I mean, that's a lot. That's a heck of a learning curve.
I have help and I ask for help, and I'm not afraid to ask for help.
Good for you.
Because you can't do any of this alone well. I also have a husband and 2 kids. My husband, thankfully, is retired. And so he is also support and help at home, but I have help. I am ADHD and dyslexic. One of the first things I did, even when I was in entrepreneurship, was hire a boss, because I really do need someone to just tell me what to do in the day. And so I hired a operations manager who's like, I'm scheduling the interviews, I'm scheduling your days, I'm telling you where you need to be and when, just because then my brain's not worried about where I need to be. I know that that's taken care of. And then somebody who can help with the things that I don't need to do. Going through email particularly can take a lot of time. I have somebody making sure that I answer the things I need to answer and they handle everything else. And just letting go of a lot of that allows me to research and create content. I have help with my moderators from my head moderator, who's also my editor and producer. And she's great. I work with a team of people that I love, that I trust. And I feel so thankful that they're like, this is my favorite thing to do. And so I can support my team doing what they love best. And I still get to work with people I really enjoy. Our team meetings always run long because we have to have chit chats and see how everybody's doing. And it's a great group. And because I transitioned from the DA's office into entrepreneurship, then into content creation, I was able to literally drag a lot of my entrepreneur friends with me and was like, I need help. How can you help me? And I found that the people who are great at what they do, like my operations manager, Amy, she's like, this is what I do. And I'm like, great, go. Yeah. And then she's like, this is what we need next. I'm like, perfect, let's do it. So bringing on people who have a clear vision of what they do too helps. I can't tell my operations manager how to best run that stuff. I've hired her to do that. I'm not going to try to control it. I'm just like, tell me what to do. And I'm great.
I love that you give them the trust and autonomy to do what they need to do. I have, I'm also diagnosed with ADHD. So it has been a little bit learning certain systems, setting alarms. Like I think I set 4 alarms to remind me to like stop what I'm doing.
Me too. No, I totally do that too.
Because God forbid I didn't show up.
But also it frees. Otherwise,
so stupid.
No, it's not at all though, because your brain will spend all day being like, don't miss my appointment. Don't miss my appointment. Don't miss my appointment. And you get nothing else done. You have to have all the alarms. And it's like, the alarms are set, brain. we're good. We're not going to miss it. I've still missed appointments that I've had alarms for because I've just been
in the
like
morning
doing
when
something
my
else.
son is going to school, I literally have an alarm for when I wake up, when he wakes up.
Yes.
15 minutes later, I have to make sure he has food. Then I have an alarm for he better be dressed by then. And then an alarm to remind me that he has to have all of his stuff together, and an alarm to show get the heck out the door. Because
Yes.
I might have not have had that system in place. And 9 o'clock comes along, even though we're supposed to be on a bus at 7. And I'm going, oh,
right. So the funny thing I learned about my ADHD, and it sounds like we're the same in this, is I have total time blindness. I do not feel time passing. And it is something
horrifying sometimes.
Yes. And it's something our world is not set up to well manage because everything we do is so ordered by time. And I'm like, what? Wait, is it really 4 a.m.? I'm still organizing my shoes and sitting on the floor in my closet. I didn't feel time passing in that way. And you can get sucked into things, especially when you're engaged with them and you really just don't go, oh, I've been doing this for 2 hours. You're like, I don't know, 4 hours, 20 minutes, 3 days. I really, truly don't know. Vegas is very dangerous when you're time blind because you can't even see the light changing. You're like,
I can imagine.
How long have I been inside for? So it's hard, which is where all the alarms come in. And that's part of me knowing myself enough to tell my team exactly what my weaknesses are. I'm like, I need you to help me fill in these gaps and not being embarrassed to say that. Because when I tell my team, these are where my blind spots are. These are where my gaps are. These are where I need your strengths. They're like, those are my strengths. I've got you.
I love
because
that.
none of us can do everything well. I want to do content creation. I want to engage with my community. That's what I do. Everything else I need help to run. And I'm so glad I have it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for something before we end this, because to me, this was powerful to me and I appreciated it. You did a video where you discussed the Roe v. Wade. And what I appreciated about it is you did not get into politics. You did not get into one side or another. It was legitimately a breakdown of the document. And I was so in awe of how you did this with such grace, because we know it is a very hot topic. It is a very difficult conversation to have. And again, I'm not here to talk about my position, your position, or anything like that. It was the simple breakdown of a document, of a legal judgment, whatever you want to call it,
a ruling,
and understanding it. The comments, I literally went through every single comment. No lie.
My comments made me cry.
Oh,
the comment section made me cry.
They made me cry, and it wasn't my content.
The compassion, the conversation, the connectedness, the fear, the stress, the unknowing. And no matter what side of the issue people are on, everyone I've talked to feels very pulled at to have a bigger reaction, pulled at to know what to do, pulled at to know how they feel, pulled at by the headlines. And it took me a while to sit down to record that because I needed to process my own feelings first.
For you. Good for you.
It's not helpful if I just spew. If I haven't processed that, it's just me being reactive. Everyone's in their own reactiveness when big things happen. Mm-hmm. And I traditionally cover pop culture. So for me, I needed to parse through my own feelings. I needed to make sure that this was the right content for me and my community. And I cover law and I cover pop culture. I stay very much away from really polarizing topics because I never want to polarize my community. But if I can try to remove the polarization from something people truly and genuinely want to understand, I can help bring understanding. I'm not trying to bring agreement. I'm not trying to tell people how to feel. I'm just trying to say, this is simply what is. What you do with that from here is on you. Be empowered. Now you know what is. Now go and tell everyone what it should be from your perspective.
Even the first few minutes of the video, and I really encourage everybody to go and listen to it because it was so wonderful. And the fact that you did say that you needed some time to kind of remove all of that emotional reaction that you might have had one way or another. And I got it. Like I understood it. And it actually, in many ways, actually made me look at my own life and think about my reactiveness to certain things, particularly about that, and go, okay, maybe I need to have time to sit with my feelings and then
Right.
be able to process it in a more analytical way. Because it that's what it comes down to. This is an analysis of a judgment or of a ruling or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, there's a lot of emotions attached to it.
I
And
think we really are so quick to want to make the emotion go away and have a response.
yeah,
And with social media, there's a lot of push to have an immediate response. Now, what are you saying now? And not just from influencers, but from companies, from individuals everywhere. Like, how are you responding to this? I don't know yet. I don't know even what this is yet. It's a 200+ page ruling. I don't know what it is yet. All I see is headlines. I need to process. And we have not well normalized taking a beat to process first so that we don't get it wrong.
yes.
And it's people are like, no, be fast, be fast, be fast. I rather be accurate in how I'm breaking something down than be fast in how I'm breaking something down. And we try to push emotion aside so quickly, it doesn't serve anyone. Emotions are going to happen. At least say these are happening. Let's deal with it.
We could try to push the emotion like aside quickly so we can go, oh, but the truth is that it's there.
It is.
I'm sorry, it just bubbles up. We can't help ourselves. But to take that time, I'm just saying that for me personally, I learned a valuable lesson not even from the judgment, just from you explaining your process in deciding to do this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's tremendously touching because that's what I try to do.
I'm getting teary-eyed, Emily.
I appreciate you so much though. It really is. When I say understand, evaluate, change, and I talk about that kind of in my process of how I think about things, that's even when we talk about the law and pop culture, I think people, when we talk about Britney Spears, they're like, wait, what are conservatorships? Is this right? Where does this fit? Where does this have a place? Where's there room for abuse? It's a very serious conversation that we've started around a beloved celebrity. And that's true across the cases we talk about. So even though the context is pop culture, the law is something that we get to create in the US through our legislatures. We get to understand and evaluate and then advocate for change. And we have such a powerful community. We can make stuff happen as law nerds, and that's powerful, but we can't do that if we're not informed. And sometimes that's just making ridiculous stuff trend on Twitter because we've had whiskey and we're in a very
okay. So I gotta ask, because my friend Colleen wanted me to ask you, what is your favorite flavored whiskey? Because she knows you're a big whiskey fan. And she's like, I want to know what her favorite whiskey is. I'm like, this is what you want to ask her?
I love this. The Old Smoky Salty Watermelon Whiskey is one of my absolute favorites, but I also love the Tennessee Legend Peanut Butter Cup Whiskey because it has peanut butter with a hint of chocolate. I love a flavored whiskey. Moving to Tennessee was the greatest thing because the whiskey here is so good. Yes, you can buy it elsewhere, but it's just part of the culture. The whiskey section at the liquor stores are incredible. This is not me writing
this down because
I'll send you a picture of my favorites.
Because I was going to say I'm more so vodka.
Salty watermelon whiskey tastes almost like a Jolly Rancher.
Oh, shut up.
It's so good. It's stupidly good.
All right. So we'll have to, I think I know what I'm going to be running out and getting tonight. And we'll definitely have a shot for you.
Yep.
Tomorrow's her birthday. So I think that will have to be our little treat, her 50th birthday along with me. Woohoo. So
love a 50th birthday. It's such a powerful age.
It has been I turned 50 in March. It has been the best year of my life. I'm so grateful.
Isn't it great? It's just great. It's like you just find we go through so much to try to find ourselves, and it depends on, I think, everyone's upbringing and their life and their ability, but you go through this process of really finding who you are. And when you start to walk in that, you're like, oh, this is great. I'm not I'm not rattleable because I know exactly who I am. So other people's opinions become just that. They don't have power anymore. And it's a powerful thing. And that's one of the things I stepped into in 2020 is really, I'm doing this as me. And so there's times when people are like, I don't like you. I'm like, okay, that's okay. That's fine. I mean, I realize that I'm very loud and I have very purple hair and I say curse words. And sometimes that's very offensive to people. And that's okay.
I'm okay with the cursey words. Like I have to temper myself. It's so funny in my household because I might let them drop here and there. My 12-year-old is so good. Like,
yes,
he just looks at me.
Yep. My kids know that they earn their curse words at 18 and then I'm fine with them letting them fly. This is what you get on your 18th birthday. You get your curse words.
I was actually raised with 10 brothers and sisters in a devoutly Catholic family. And my mother and my father had this rule, absolutely no curse words in the household. Like we would warn our friends before they get like, just so you know,
just please don't.
You're
going to have to say rosaries if you curse at my house.
Yeah. So I never said a curse word until I was probably in my mid-20s. And I'll never forget when I said something and my dear friend who was a heavy metal head,
love
with his long slash hair and everything. He was there. I said probably the F-bomb and he was like, say it again. And I said to my son, I always say to my kids, I'm like, this is a lesson because this is where when you use certain language, it can be powerful.
Yes.
It can be powerful. Every other word, not so much.
No, it loses its power. It's like seasoning. Too much sometimes is just too much.
Nice to put salt and pepper in. Maybe a little bit of, Cajun spice as well.
Depends on how spicy the day is. Exactly.
Right. Thank you so much for coming on today. I feel like I could go on forever and I appreciate you. You're my idol. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you so much. Hopefully we will find ourselves in the same space at some time and we can raise a glass of whiskey and continue the chat.
Cheers.
Cheers.